A gas pipeline exploded in Russia, and Europe now has no real options except the peace plan proposed by the United States. My name is Albina Pidhirnyak. The latest news is coming up. In Russia, the Druzhba oil pipeline was blown up again. The explosions happened during the night near the village of Kazinsky Vyselki on the Taganrog-Lipetsk section of the pipeline. The device was detonated remotely and extra chemicals were used to make the fire stronger. The German outlet Bild claimed that Russian forces fully captured Pokrovsk and that the battle is over. This is not true. Ukrainian General Staff spokesman Mayor Andriy Kovalyov denied this information. Yesterday, Putin said he is waiting for Ukrainian and foreign journalists to show them whose Pokrovsk it is. In Russia, they call our Pokrovsk Krasnoarmeysk. Putin's spokesman commented on this nonsense from his boss.
Yesterday, Putin again invited the foreign press to the liberated Kupiansk, now completely liberated by our troops. Is the Kremlin aware of any response from the Western media about their readiness to go there?
Putin did not send foreign press to Kupiansk. You are wrong here. He spoke about such a possibility.
Called.
He said that those who wish can do it. Called, yes, that's right, called. He said that those who wish can do so. And indeed, those who wish can do this. If necessary, such visits can be arranged. Moreover, representatives of our media work there, continue to work, despite, of course, the rather great danger.
The Kremlin also reacted to the painful topic of Europe giving up Russian gas. Recently, EU negotiators reached a preliminary agreement to gradually stop importing Russian gas by the end of 2027. Peskov responded by saying that the European economy risks losing its leading potential.
You can ask the Kremlin's reaction to Ursula von der Leyen's announcement yesterday that Europe will no longer depend on Russian gas.
This means that Europe will depend on gas, which is more expensive, and sometimes much more expensive, than Russian gas. Thus, Europe condemns itself to much more expensive sources of energy, which will inevitably lead to consequences for Europe's economy and for a decrease in Europe's competitiveness. This will only accelerate the process that has emerged in recent years to lose the European economy of its leading potential.
Marco Rubio said in a recent interview that Russia and Ukraine are now fighting over a small piece of territory, but if the war stopped now and Ukraine started rebuilding its economy, then in 10 years Ukraine's GDP could be higher than Russia's.
What they're literally fighting over now is about 30 to 50 kilometer space in the 20% of the Donetsk region that remains. And so what we have tried to do, and I think have made some progress, is figure out what can the Ukrainians live with that gives them security guarantees for the future. They're never going to be invaded again, allows them not just to rebuild their economy, but to prosper as a country, be a country that has an economy that grows theoretically, doing the right things. In 10 years, Ukraine's GDP could be larger than Russia's. These are the kinds of things. Stop the war, make sure they never get invaded or attacked again, protect Ukraine's long-standing and long-term sovereignty and independence so that they don't become a puppet state. They're actually independent and sovereign, and allow their economy not just to recover, but to prosper and turn it into a story of prosperity. That's what we're trying to achieve here. So what can Ukraine agree to, given all the dynamics that I've just described, and what will Russia agree to? And at the end of the day, it's not up to us. It's not our war. We're not fighting it. They're not American soldiers. It's on another continent. We are engaged because we're the only ones that can. European countries, there's no one else in the world that can do this. The Chinese can't do it. The only leader in the world that can talk to both sides and make a deal of a deal as possible is President Trump. And he's been very patient. He's dedicated a lot of time to it. A lot of the top people in his administration have been involved in this. We are trying to see if we can bridge the divide between both sides. To do that, we have to talk to both sides. We have some irrational people involved in this issue. Okay, people who believe that we should only talk to the Ukrainian side and not talk to the Russians at all. You can't end a war between Russia and Ukraine without talking to Russia. Right. But you also have to take into account the Ukrainian position. They've been very brave in how they fought. But we think that now is the ideal time for both sides to end the war. And if there's a way to bridge the divide between the two sides, we're the only ones in the world that can do it. And that's what we're trying to do. Ultimately, it's going to be up to them. If they decide they don't want to end the war, then the war will continue. But we're going to try to bring it to an end. And I think the president should be commended for that, not attacked for it or criticized. Some of these people have this notion that our policy should be just continue to fund Ukraine on unlimited amounts for as long as the war takes. That's not realistic. That's not reality. And that's not going to happen. And we've been saying that for a long time. Well, you can't sustain the scale and scope of it. And I also think it's realistic for Russia to continue this war for 4 or 5 years.
I would have thought on paper that Russia would have rolled over them in 3 weeks. And wow, the president at one point said...
What people forget, Sean, is that at some point in this war, Russia controlled substantially more territory in Ukraine than they do now. The Ukrainians, if you look at what that map looked like in March or April after the invasion, or May, 3 months after the invasion, and what it looks like now, the Ukrainians have pushed the Russians way back from where they were. So they've already achieved tremendous things because of their bravery, their courage, and how hard they have fought. But there's also the reality. This has now become a war of attrition. And sadly, the Russians have shown their willingness to sacrifice 7,000 soldiers a week.
Crazy.
In an effort to achieve this. Putin a couple weeks ago said, it may take long, we are going to achieve our objectives. It may cost more and take longer than we wanted to, but we will get it done. And so I actually think that's their mentality. And what we're trying to see, is it possible to end the war in a way that protects Ukraine's future, that both sides could agree to? That's what we're trying to find out.
Putin, who claims he wants peace, is telling Russian volunteers how much they supposedly help the occupiers. But we all understand that the real volunteering is a Ukrainian story. It shows the unity of our people. When the whole country stood up to defend itself from Russia, some with weapons, other by volunteering.
We all have it in our blood, helping our neighbor, supporting those in need. And you, your friends, and your comrades in arms are very good at this. Thank you very much. And it is no coincidence that people like you have many followers and many supporters in other countries. This is exactly the sphere of activity that really has no state boundaries at all, no boundaries at all. There is only what unites everyone, a kind heart. And, of course, it is important that after the start of the special military operation, you also got involved in this work. By the way, the number of volunteers has increased in our country more than 3 times. From 10 to 32% of the population. And when the special military operation began, 630,000 people joined the work to support our guys, heroes of the special military operation and members of their families. And what is especially important is that you include the participants of the special military operation themselves in this work. And it's wonderful, their life, it's a wonderful example for the whole country, especially for young people.
The day before, Putin said that European is not involved in peace process. He claimed that Europe must first propose its own terms for peace in order to take part. At the same time, Putin's aides suggest that Europeans should probably discuss peace only if they come to Moscow.
As for contacts with Europeans, I don't know, I don't think so. In my opinion, no. The Europeans refuse all contacts. You know, although Putin recently suggested which of the European leaders would like to talk, please come to Moscow, we will continue our contact. On our part, there is no negative attitude towards the continuation of contact.
Mark Rutte said he has no plan B if the peace talks fail again. The NATO Secretary General mentioned this at a recent press conference.
Let's imagine the negotiations break down, both sides continue fighting, and USA stops supplying weapons to Ukraine even for money. Do you have a plan B for this? Thank you.
Well, I do not... No, I don't think that plan B we have to think about, because the US is very consistent in support for Ukraine, like all NATO allies are very consistent. Of course, what the US told us is we want to supply Ukraine with the necessary weapons, both lethal and non-lethal, but we expect Europeans and Canadians to step up when it comes to the paying for it, and that's this Pearl program, where the US is delivering the necessary weapons, including the air defense systems and the PAC-3 missiles for the Patriot systems, but also for the other air defense systems, and all the other stuff and all the military gear you need to stay as strong as possible in the fight, paid for by European and Canadian allies. That is the big program. It started in July, and at the moment already 4 billion, and I think by the end of the year 5 billion of that supply will have been delivered to Ukraine, critical material. But I have no reason to think that we have to prepare for those eventualities.
Thank you for watching this video. Support Ukraine, help Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. See you next time.